Why are Canada Goose coats so expensive? Of course, profit margins and marketing strategy are a big part of it. The fact that their down-filled parkas are made in Canada, where labor costs are not the cheapest, is also part of it. However, these coats have a lot of features that make them more expensive and time-consuming to construct than lower-end brands. And I'm gonna take my stitch ripper and take apart this lovely Canada Goose coat that I bought secondhand for less than $100 to show you. So before I even take it apart, let's look at the label for a second. A lot of garments will have a little label right up at the neckline, whereas this is a huge diamond in a very visible place with very visible stitching. Now, the advantages of a label like this are that it's very big visible branding for Canada Goose, but also it's not going to itch the back of your neck and annoy you like those little square labels. However, this is a lot more time consuming to sew because that's a big label. That's a lot of surface area to sew. And because it's visible, the stitching needs to be absolutely perfect. The coat also has these straps so that you can wear it like a backpack if you need to go inside for a brief time, which is a very handy feature. Now, these would not be difficult to sew because you just sew them in as you're sewing the lining, which is just sewing a straight line. However, somebody had to decide how long these would be, where exactly they'd be placed within the jacket, how much longer they would get with each size increase, etc. So they had to be part of the pattern. Somebody had to source the fabric for these and cut them and etc. So it still adds a little bit to the cost and time needed to produce the jacket. Okay, now I'm gonna grab my stitch ripper and open this baby up. So first I'm ripping out this stitch at the bottom here at the hem to get to the lining. I'm being very strategic here in terms of what stitches I'm ripping out so that I can put it back together and still have it look nice. It's like surgery. You're not gonna rip open someone's entire head just to get to their nose. I'm assuming anyway, I'm not a surgeon. All right, so that was just the top stitching, so I'm gonna have to take out these stitches underneath. I'm not sure if the camera's picking that up. Okay, I got to the lining, yay! So this is the part where I started regretting my life choices because feathers started coming out and I was like, oh gosh, what have I done? But anyway, it's fine, I made it work. Okay, so now that I have an opening a couple inches wide at the bottom of the lining, I'm gonna flip this baby inside out. And a struggle is ensuing, but that's fine. So this is what a down parka looks like when it's flipped inside out. The first thing I want to highlight for you guys is these white pieces. These are the down sacks. So for this back piece, you'd have two pieces of this lining fabric that roughly look like this. They would be sewn together around the edges, leaving a hole to fill it with down, and then that hole would be sewn too. And then the outer fabric, so the part that you see from the outside, would be sewn to the down sacks inside the seam allowance, very close to the edge. That's what this stitch here is. And then you want to quilt it so that the down is evenly distributed and it doesn't all fall to the bottom, right? So that's why you have these stitching lines which are visible on the outside of the jacket. So because the stitching is visible on the outside of the jacket, it has to be perfect. So for instance, if you run out of thread partway through, in most situations you would just rethread and start again where you left off because it doesn't really matter. But for this, if you run out of thread or make a mistake or whatever, you can't just start again where you left off because that would be unsightly. So you have to take out the entire row of stitching and do it again. Now, this method of quilting is not proprietary to Canada Goose, at least I don't think it is. I would assume that many outerwear brands would construct their jackets similarly to this. I also want to draw your attention to this ridge at the neckline. This is thick. It's like 2 layers of rib knit, the down sack, the outer fabric, and the lining. The reason it's so thick is because of these layers of chunky rib knit that you have at the neckline here in case you want to wear the jacket without a hood. So that's a handy feature that makes the jacket more versatile and of course increases time and cost. Let's look at this ridge again. Look how smooth that is. It is the exact same height all the way around. And in a factory setting, you're not allowed to use pins, so someone held all those layers together. Now it's possible that some of those layers were sewn to each other before everything was sewn together, which would make it easier, but still, someone held all these layers together without pins and sewed it perfectly from end to end. That takes skill. All right, so we're gonna flip the jacket back right side out again, and I wanted to just highlight a few more features before I end this video. Alright, so like I said earlier, the hood is removable and there is a zipper and snaps there so that it can be detached or reattached. And there is also a removable fur trim. So you have a zipper here for the fur trim, and of course you want to conceal that zipper so that it's not obvious that the fur trim is removable and so that the zipper is like not touching you or getting caught on things. So there's this little channel here to conceal it. There's also this hidden button here inside the hood to adjust it. This button feels pretty sturdy to me, and that would be consistent with my impression of all of Canada Goose's like buttons and zippers and all that. I don't get the impression that they skimp on trims. They all seem pretty solid. That doesn't mean that everything they do or use is at like the highest levels of quality all the time. Like, I don't think there is anything particularly special about the lining fabric or how the lining is constructed just by looking at it. But in general, their fabrics and trims and construction are good quality. And this is why it kind of annoys me when people say that they can get something equivalent to a luxury product, whether that's Canada Goose or something else, for like a tenth of the price from places like Amazon. And I get it. Most people don't know how garments are made, and a lot of people are not actually accustomed to what a luxury garment looks and feels like. So if whatever they've bought looks superficially similar and meets their needs, they're gonna think that paying for a high quality coat is just paying for the brand. Now, don't get me wrong. Of course you're paying for the brand. You're paying a lot of money for the brand. However, the idea that there is no difference between a luxury coat like a Canada Goose parka or any random coat that you could buy off the internet is absolutely absurd. Alright, and for those of you who were concerned that I slid open a perfectly good parka, don't worry, I fixed it, and I look forward to wearing it for many years to come. That's all for today, friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.